My father was a musician, basically. He was an army man, but he also played a lot of instruments. And he once heard on the radio, if you teach your son to blow a horn, he won't blow a safe. And so he gave that as a reason for buying a cornet for me and my brother. So we took cornet lessons, you know, like when we were 4 and 5 years old. Well, after high school, I actually went into the Air Force and didn't spend any time with music until I was about 60 years old. And at that point, he came to live with us because he was very ill. And after he'd been there a few months, he asked me to play something on the piano for him. And I reminded him that I didn't play the piano, so he told me to make it up. And so I said, okay, trying to please him. So I went over the piano and started making up a song, and it sounded pretty good. And he liked it, his nurse liked it, and he encouraged me to make up another one. And so it started that way. We were on a cruise to Southeast Asia, and I found the piano lounge open in the middle of the day. Nobody was there, so I sat down and I found playing the piano relaxed me. And so I started playing this song here.
I was like a cabaret artist, so I was sitting in the lounge and Dave was playing. And so I went up to Dave and I said, "Oh, what's that tune you're playing?" He said, "I wrote it myself." And then he said, "I'll play it again." And he played the tune again, and I thought, well, I'll write it down. So I wrote down the piece and we played it in one of our concerts. Everyone loved it. They thought it was great, you know. And then we just kind of continued the relationship from there, really.
I said to Graham, I said, "Look, would you like to work with me? I've got a lot more of these songs that, you know, you can certainly help me with." Graham lived in England and I lived in Virginia. So I had to somehow pass these melodies on to him. So I learned a software program called MIDI, where I could play the tune and the MIDI would capture it, and then I would send it by email to Graham.
I suppose because David was employing me in a sense, I felt like I just wanted to do exactly what he told me. But as the years progressed, I started to say, well, this would be better with a bridge, this would be better. And, you know, Dave would say, "Oh yeah, actually that does sound better," and I'd send him different options. I've written, I think, I don't know exactly how many now, but probably about 80 songs. And I think Graham has been involved in 78 of them. And that's very much shaped everything I've done.
I was really on the ground floor, as it were, with Orchestra Mastrangelo, because it really didn't exist. It was really, at least partially, my idea. I had a studio, and I was producing things.
It's D. Could you do it in D?
What we were doing with David at the time was recording his songs, which he had begun writing words to.
I'm done dreaming, I'm through dreaming every night for you.
My love has always been instrumental music. So I began right off the bat sort of encouraging David, you know, these melodies are really, really beautiful. And sometimes, you know, when you put lyrics on a beautiful melody, sometimes for the listener, you limit what that melody can mean. Somehow in the process of this and sort of having that dialogue about instrumental music, we began orchestrating some of them. So that's kind of how Orchestra Mastrangelo began to materialize.
With Orchestra Mastrangelo, I take a melody that's usually just played on a piano or with a rhythm section or something, and then it needs to be expanded and turned into a song for an orchestra. So in essence, you take the melody of the song and you create rhythm and harmony and counterpoint and whatnot for an orchestra to play it.
David Maestrin writes the majority of this music, or at least what he brings to the table is the melodies, you know, and to some degree the harmonic structure. He will bring something down and literally say, you know, it needs a bridge, there's a bridge that doesn't exist, and let's create something.
was sort of like seeing a black and white TV turn into a color TV, because they were true to the song and yet they added the color to it, and it was really beautiful. My father's name, his father's name was Mastrangelo. They came from Italy, and I had told Paul about it, and he thought that Orchestra Mastrangelo would be a great name for a product line for Grand Vista.
It took me a while to talk him into it, actually. He's a little bit shy about putting himself out there. It's not about him. He doesn't want his picture on the cover, and he, in fact, I think he even asked some of his relatives if it was okay if we used their name, if they thought that was a good idea, and I think it's a great idea.
I use the adjective cinematic because everybody that hears it always tells me what they see in their heads while they're listening to it.
We track these pieces with a rhythm section, for instance, bass, guitar, and drums, which you might expect to hear, on any song you're listening to on the radio. And yet, juxtaposed with that is, some pretty traditional, classical-sounding orchestrations.
Not everyone knows a lot about classical music, although there's many classical famous melodies that folks could hear or will hear, and they might not know the name of the song, but they've heard it many times in different situations. Orchestra Mastrangelo is music that they can enjoy on the same level without having to be schooled in music appreciation or anything like that.
I believe that he wants to do something that adds value and do something that helps people. And helping people, from his perspective, is both helping us here, seeing all these talented people that are struggling because this business is struggling. But the really bigger picture is I can help lots more people by creating this music, and music has that power. At the end of the day, when I'm not here anymore, some music that I've created is still going to be here and still be contributing. And I think that's really the core of our mission.